Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Look, I wanted to give you a sneak peek at a recent webinar where we talked about why now is an ideal time to put a Roth conversion in place and start your Roth conversion journey. So if you've been kind of waiting, trying to gather information, and you've been kicking the can down the road and just not sure what to do, look, this is really the right info for you. We usually reserve this kind of content for just webinar attendees, but the value in this discussion was just too good not to share. So I hope you find it helpful. Enjoy. Title of today is Roth Conversion Reset for IRA Millionaires. And man, I'm really excited about some recent developments and what that means to you, what that means to all of our clients. We are busy on our side with all kinds of things, trying to catch up with some of the new opportunities that exist out there for you guys. So here's what's on the agenda. We're going to cover a few basics first, and I want to address some of the common concerns that we see that people have in regard to doing Roth conversions. And then we'll talk about why now is really the right time. If you're an IRA millionaire and you're not already doing aggressive Roth conversions at a tax bracket higher than what you're currently paying, then you need some information. And there are no, yeah, but you don't understand, Craig. We've done this for 15 years. We did 5,000 iterations last year. There's a piece of information that's missing on your behalf that I want you to really get why you need to do this now. Whether we help you or whether you just continue down the road you're on, I just really want you to be able to feel really good about your strategy and what you're doing. And then toward the second half of what we're going to do these next 45, 50 minutes together, I'm going to give you some pro tips for actually implementing your game plan. 3 areas that we see, and that we've already hinted at through the polls what they're dealing with, but 3 areas I want to give you some real quick bullet points. We don't have enough time today for me to go into detail on all those, but I do have resources that you can get the details on, right? And then we want to just talk about, now, how do I begin? How do I go from where I am to where I need to be? And for those of you that are already kind of got your game plan, I hope you pick up a few tips. For those of you that have a game plan, I hope I'm able to shed some light into maybe some dark areas where you maybe not doing as much as what you could do. And then you figure out, if you are happy with the direction that you're going with that regard. But a really big disclaimer that I want to lay out there today is that this webinar, despite maybe some of the others that you've been to, we do not sell any financial products. We don't want to manage your money and charge you a fee to manage assets. We just do this one thing. We offer people advice on Roth conversions and comprehensive planning and even kind of a la carte financial planning items. And that's it. So the information I'm going to share with you is not how do I get you to come over so I can sell you an annuity or get you to move your money over or talk you out of managing it yourself and let us do it. We don't do any of those things. So I say that to you on the front end, not as an advertisement, as much as just you have to decide whether you trust the information. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to who do I trust to help me with this. And I want you to understand we don't have any ulterior motives other than to be able to help clients make the best decision they can. The information I'm going to share with you is a result of some pretty amazing experiences we've had. Our clients so far in the last 5 years, since I wrote my first book in 2019, we have collectively put together game plans for clients that we project $2.5 billion of tax avoidance for those clients. $2.5 billion of tax avoidance, not by buying anything from us, but by them implementing a game plan that was much more aggressive than they thought they should have done. And so they're going to be some big winners. And we get excited about that because that changes generational things. That changes life later in retirement. And we do that through a service that I'm going to tell you guys about later, that we put a 100% refund offer on the advice that we give. So this is not my opinion I'm about to give you. It's not theory I'm going to give you. It's not a shaded approach to how do I get you to send me more money. It's really how do we help you? And through those clients, our average client avoids about 3.2 million of taxes. So if your advisor or you have come up with a spreadsheet that show you're going to save about 400,000 of taxes, you probably have something that's gone awry in your spreadsheet. That's the average, is about 3.2 million. Our average client also benefits by saving about $80,000 in Medicare premiums. And most of our game plans we put together between 4 and 10 years. And many of our clients actually see an increase in their projected tax adjusted net worth. So all those things come together for me really just to try to stand on a platform that says, there's a whole lot in life I don't know much about, and I'll admit that. But when it comes to this subject, we have a lot of experience, and we've done a lot of different things in it to try to make that a positive experience for our clients. So as I share some of these things with you, please don't take them as condescending. I've had that said to me in some of our posts. Please don't take it as well, you don't understand my situation. I don't know your particular situation, but if you're an IRA millionaire and if you're the typical person that benefits from doing very aggressive, large Roth conversions to save the most you can, these truths I'm going to tell you are actually truths. They're not just, like I said, opinions of mine. So let's right? So why should an IRA millionaire implement conversions and pay more tax? So I probably need to push the pause button for those of you that happen to make it into the webinar and you're not quite the IRA millionaire. I get a lot of comments of, well, why are you discriminating against those of us that don't have at least $1 million? And it's not a discrimination thing. It's just that if you're not edging up close to the $1 million mark, if you have a more modest amount in your IRA and you maybe have other money sitting in other accounts, you probably are not going to have the same problems that this webinar is designed to help other people solve. The biggest challenge is to make your IRA smaller over time so that the required minimum distributions don't cause a lot of pain. And then there are a lot of questions that come behind that, and we're going to talk about some of those things. But what I'm so excited to be able to tell you guys about is really comes down to the fact that with the recent presidential election we've had, although the legislation hasn't passed yet, one of the promises that Trump ran on during his campaign was that he was going to extend the Tax Cut Job Act rate decreases. Now, I know that politics in our country has become very divisive and very polarized, but I'm not talking about a political opinion here on mine. I'm talking about the reality is no matter whether he's a donkey or an elephant party, the facts are that you now have 4 more years of these lower tax rates. So you got 2025, and at the end of 2025, these major tax decreases were supposed to stop. The Tax Cut Job Act was going to sunset, and the old rates were going to apply. Well, now all of a sudden, it looks like by April, we're going to have this massive legislation that does all kinds of things, and who knows what will happen with it. But one of the benefits that's going to come out of it for you is that the tax rates that we have now are probably going to persist. Now, that isn't legislation yet, but that was something he ran on. He's already proving he's going to do the things that he said he was going to do, whether you like them or not. He said he's doing them. And so the good news for you is where you were going to have to pay more taxes on future conversions, you now are going to get a cut. And you can see over there on the far right side of this screen, depending on what tax bracket you're in, you're going to get a pretty substantial decrease on some of that conversion on the way up through the conversion, through the tax scale. So I've said for many years that the objective of accelerated Roth conversion strategies is to maximize your lifetime tax avoidance while also maintaining your tax adjusted net worth. And that's the only way that Roth conversion works in the best way, is that you avoid a bunch of tax and you're able to keep together your net worth. And by net worth, I mean the amount that's actually yours and not just money that you're saving for you or somebody to pay the government later. So that's one of the biggest objections that we get from people, that people haven't really thought through fully, or the media or the information they get doesn't really respond to. And I just try to lay it out in very simple math. This question of should I pay the taxes now or later? And we have people that thump their chest thinking that their attitude of I'm not going to pay a dime of tax until they force me to, they think that's the right answer. And they almost wear it as a badge of honor that they got something over everybody else. And in reality, it's the wrong approach for almost everybody. There are a few exceptions I could lay out. Let's say somebody Well, I won't even get into that because then there's exceptions to those too. So I want to run through the math. Let's say you got an IRA balance. It's $1 million today. All right. So you got $1 million in your IRA. Good for you. You saved hard. You worked hard. You got all the money in there. One of the options you could say is, look, I'm going to pay all the tax right now and get it over with. Now, we only in very rare instances do we recommend the Band-Aid approach where you just rip off the Band-Aid and pay the whole tax. But to make my point even more significant, let's just assume you had to pay an average rate of 30% if you converted your entire $1 million IRA today. And again, only in rare instances would we ever use that as the solution. But if you did, then your remaining balance would be $700,000. Well, if you earned 6% a year in your investments on that $700,000 balance in 12 years, you're going to have $1,400,000. And that's, you pay the tax, you put it all into a Roth, it grows, and the 700 becomes $1,400,000. So let's compare that to paying the tax later. If you pay the tax later, you take the $1 million, you let it grow for those 12 years, and $1 million becomes $2 million. And that's where a lot of people think I would never pay the tax up front because my balance is going to be so much lower if I pay the tax now. And you're right, the balance is lower. But what I'm proving on this slide is all you're really doing is accumulated more tax that you got to pay later at some point. So you get the $2 million, you pay 30% later on the tax, same tax rate, you're left with what? Shazam, the same number. It's still $1,400,000. Whether you pay tax now or pay later is irrelevant. And so some people would say, well, gosh, so if the balances are the same, why should I even convert if the ending balances are the same? And that's a reasonable question. But the answer lies in the journey between today and that time, and the pain that those required minimum distributions are going to cause to you. And if you're already doing conversions and you've already built in, enough that you're including some QCDs into what you're doing, you've got donor advised funds, you get this stuff already. So this is maybe for the other 58% that responded that maybe aren't quite up to speed with everybody else. So let's just go through a real life example. And I've used this example in other webinars because it's pretty well hits the middle of the road of most of the people that we work with. So let's say you're in your mid 60s and you got $1.7 million in IRAs. The question is, gosh, how might this impact us? And I've come to realize that I've got to offer some disclaimers along the way, in that what you're about to see was what happened for them. It had their very unique circumstances. It had their income, their expenses, their assets. So I don't want you to imply, if you've got $1.7 million sitting in an IRA and you're in your 60s, I don't want you to say, oh, well, okay, that's what's going to happen for me, because I don't know that. Your income may be different. Your expenses are maybe going to change. Your assets maybe are different outside of your account than theirs were. But this is a typical client situation I'm going to show you. If they did nothing on that $1.7 million over both of their lifetimes, their projected required minimum distributions were going to be $3.7 million. That's how much total taxable income was going to be forced into their life because they saved well inside an IRA. In their case, using all the other income sources they had, Social Security, some investment income, their total projected lifetime taxes were going to be $2.9 million. And this is a real life client that actually was my client several years ago. So this is real life. This isn't made up. The total projected tax to their heirs was going to be $875,000. Well, where'd that tax come from? That's from the remaining balance of their IRA at the second death. So their IRA, and they're like many of the IRA millionaires that we work for, they weren't really going to be using the IRA much during their life. It was for emergencies, or, hey, let's take the whole family on a big trip or something like that. And so for the most part, the IRA just grows and grows over their lifetime. And when the remaining spouse is left, then the kids get to clean up the rest of it. And in their case, the tax to the heirs was going to be, best case scenario, $875,000. When I say best case, I mean, they paid the tax on the front end as opposed to letting it grow for the next 10 years, like the Secure Act kind of says that they can. In these people's case, their total projected Medicare premiums were going to be $638,000 over their lifetime. And the reason for that is the RMDs, the required minimum distributions, once they got on to Medicare, were going to start causing higher premiums for Medicare Part B and Part D, and those Medicare premiums are going to rise over their lifetime. All right, so let's see what happens. We went in and we put together their optimal accelerated strategy. They had to go up a few tax brackets from where they were, but the result was their RMDs were going to be just $15,000. That implies then that we would get almost everything out of the IRAs before they had to do RMDs. And indeed, that's kind of the way we worked it. We left a remaining balance so that the QCDs from the IRA could take care of that. So they would just offset the tax that way. And so their total projected lifetime taxes then dropped from 2.9 to 1.9 million, and their heirs kind of got a gimme on that, and it saved another $875,000 for the heirs. Their Medicare premiums went down $200,000. So their total amount of tax that they avoid by going to an accelerated strategy at tax brackets much higher than what they were already at actually ends up saving 1.8 million. $1 million during their life and 800,000 for the kids, and another couple $100,000 in Medicare premium savings. Post-election, we've already started running numbers to say, okay, well, what happens if the Tax Cut Job Act is not sunset? If it just continues, if either there is a presidential proclamation, or whether it's Congress does a new tax code. And the answer is that their projected lifetime taxes drop about $200,000. So the cool thing is, what I just said to you is, because of the result of the election and we hope pursuant tax policy, these people would have saved $200,000 more tax just because of the drop. I'm sorry, $200,000 less tax because of the drop, meaning they will pay less tax because of the extension of the Tax Cut Job Act. What is not included here is one of the proposals that Trump has, is that he wants Social Security not to be taxed. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I did not include it in these numbers because I don't have any idea what it's going to look like. But think about that. If all of a sudden your $60,000, $80,000, $90,000 of Social Security is no longer taxed, so that gives you more room on your tax return to even further accelerate the amount of conversions that you do. And there's also some savings there. And of course, tips and overtime are also things, but not many of the people that we work with deal with the tips and overtime. But Social Security is something we're watching really close. And of course, if you're subscribed to our YouTube channel and on our mailing list, we'll let you know as soon as we know how that works out. But total tax avoidance still, even after lower those, is still 1.5. But the really amazing thing that you guys have now is, all of a sudden, you have this new lease on life, so to speak, financially, in that what was about to go away at the end of 2025 and to pay more tax, you now are going to get, well, let's say at least a 4-year extension on that. And if at the end of his 4-year term, we'll see what happens next. But you have this fantastic window. It's like a second chance. If you're late to the Roth conversion conversation and you just got started a year or two, and if you're doing accelerated conversions, you are going to have to pay a lot more tax starting in 2026. And now you're not. And you need to reevaluate your game plan. And because we're doing a lot of client reviews, we're updating a lot of plans, and it's changing a lot of things for people, and you just need to be aware of that. But there's still significant savings for you if you're that IRA millionaire. Okay, so look, I hope you enjoyed that preview of the webinar, and if you want to see the full version, just click the link in the description, watch the full replay. If you're interested in learning more, just download my free book by clicking the link in the description below or in the pinned comment. Take care. Have a great day.